Welcome to the Want Moshiach podcast. Today we're discussing perhaps the most important topic, a topic that Rebbe brought up countless times right in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch. Al tizbayish mipnei hamaligim. Do not be afraid, do not be embarrassed by the scoffers. There's a lot of things we can do to bring Mashiach, but sometimes we're scared to do them or we're not comfortable because we're not comfortable doing them, because we're embarrassed by them or we don't think it's the right thing to do. So today we're going to talk about that. When should you go for it? Is it the right thing to do? How are we supposed to think about all this? So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so I'll give my 2 cents on the matter. I think this is something that I've been thinking about personally. How going through this whole thing about Mashiach and getting into it and spreading the message and saying Yechi and Shul and B'chlal talking about the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach. It's very hard, especially if you're not someone who was brought up with it, to start doing it all of a sudden. It's very, very hard, especially if you're in a community where no one talks about it. It's not like a thing that people do. We don't talk about the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach. We don't talk about Mashiach as a thing of the present. We don't say Yechi. We don't wear Yechi yarmulka. It's not only that, but it's taboo. You don't bring it up. It's one of those things that you don't bring up. But so I was thinking, it's very uncomfortable. So why would I do it? And the more I learned the Sichos of Tafshin and Beis, which I think is the most important thing to do, like the Rebbe says in Tazir Mitzayra, the Derech HaYeshara, is learning in Yarmulka Mashiach. So for sure, that's first and foremost. Learning the Sichos, you get more excited and more excited, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, now that I have all this excitement, I have to put it somewhere. I have to give it to someone. So you sit with your friend and you talk to him about the Sichos, and you sit with this, and you try so many times to bring it up, but it's still always, you're looked at as like the weirdo. Like, why are you talking about Mashiach, bro? Like,
you're that guy.
You're that guy, exactly. You become that guy, and it becomes so weird. Like, why are you talking about Mashiach right now? Right now is Yud Kislev. We're talking about the Alter Rebbe. Why are you talking about Mashiach? Right now is Chanukah. Why are you talking about Mashiach? Like, right now is Purim. Why are you talking about Mashiach? So on and so forth. There's so many times where you're like bringing it up, but why are you bringing it up now? You're so weird. This is everything that you talk about is about Mashiach. So then I started. Then this podcast started, and started talking to more people about it. People that I in the beginning I would never have thought of speaking to, but now I started speaking to more people, and people started speaking to me about it, and so on and so forth. Conversations happened. And throughout the conversations, especially with people that were there throughout that time, it came out so many times that this was the thing. This was normal. In Tafshin and Beis, Tafshin and Gimel, Tafshin and Daled, up until Gimel Tammuz, it was the thing that literally everybody did. This was Chabad. Lubavitch was known as the Messianic movement. Why were we known as Messianic movement? Because everybody was talking about Mashiach in such a real way. Not only talking about the general concept of Mashiach and Geula in such a practical and such a current way, but also talking about the fact that there is a Melech HaMoshiach in the world. And getting so excited about it, and printing in the newspapers and making books about it, writing books about it, and so many, going to schools and teaching about it. This was the thing that everybody was doing. And the more I heard about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So what happened? What happened post Nundal? What happened after Gimel Tammuz? Why are we not doing the exact same thing? And it's interesting when we bring it up to the few guests that we had that were there and that were living through that time. What's brought up is there was hisnagdos. There was there's a story. I was reading the Me'achorei HaPiskei Dinim, one of the publications that opened my eyes to what was happening in those times and how that was the normal thing, and it was being encouraged by the Rebbe so strongly. Was this publication by David Nachshon that he gave out the Shura by his wedding, and they translated to English. So I started reading it in English, and then I went to the Hebrew, to the original. And over there, he brings a story of after after I think it was a week or two, where the Rebbe was being ma'idi Yechi, and the Piskei Dinim were going crazy. Everybody was signing. It was mamish so tumult. There was a big vibe of Mashiach vibe in Crown Heights and Bechlal in the world, in Eretz Yisrael, and the whole Chabad. And something happened that all of a sudden, the Rebbe became quiet, stopped doing it, and it was very, very weird. And there were rumors, a lot of rumors going around that the Rebbe was very, very, very angry. It wasn't good. The Rebbe didn't like it. Those are the rumors. So there was this guy, I think his name is Shmueli or something, and he's a publicist. He writes publications, newspapers, I don't know, something like that. And he went by the Rebbe, and he asked him he wanted to do something specifically to do with Mashiach, and he asked him about it. He said, "Can I want to do this? But I hear that there's all these rumors and all that stuff." And the Rebbe says, I don't know, I forgot the whole thing, but there's one part that I do remember, and this is the Rebbe says, "Hekimu menagdim chadashim l'archakas limud hachasidus v'hashaychus l'zeh." Now that's a translation. The Rebbe said it in Yiddish, obviously, but what the Rebbe was saying is that there was new isnagdus to the whole thing, and now we're not doing it. So much so to the extent that the Rebbe sent to Eretz Yisrael that the Lag B'Omer parade should have nothing, zero mention of Mashiach. No, we want Mashiach now, no nothing. Just regular Judaism.
Which is crazy, because that was going on for a decade already, the whole we want Mashiach now.
Correct, and not only that, but it was post Chav Nissen, where the Rebbe is like koching a Mashiach for right after Chav Nissen for the next few weeks. The Rebbe was like heavy Mashiach, Geula, the whole thing was crazy. And mit Amal Lag B'Omer, the Rebbe is sending out that not only should we quiet it down, but we should completely remove it from the whole thing. Whatever. So David Nachshon says that all of a sudden we have new Isnagdus in Chabad. So. Going back to what I was saying, that I was speaking to the people and asking them about what happened, that all of a sudden it was just quiet. Right now, right? Chabad, Lubavitch is not known so much for its mainstream stance on Mashiach. Now it's more, the Mashiachist. They're right. Every Lubavitcher now, a big mashpia or a big speaker on the YouTubes or on the platforms are asked about this. The Mashiachist that believe that Rebbe is Mashiach. They're not asking it, what does Lubavitch hold? They're asking, what do you do about those guys that think this? What do you say about those guys that think this? So we see that right now, nowadays, it's very fringe. So we asked, what happened between Tavshin and Gimel and now? That all of a sudden it went from being literally the mainstream, the Rebbe being ma'ided it, to something that is so not only so fringe, but it's taboo to speak about it in your own shul. Not a Chabad house. In a shul, a anash with Anshe Shleimenu. So what was the answer? The answer is that post Nun Daled, after Gimel Tammuz, there was a big effort, sadly, from I don't know who exactly it was, how it came to be, but there was Isnagdos, not Isnagdos from the Welt, but Isnagdos from Chabad itself. Sadly, there were times where people that spoke about the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach, and they said Yechi publicly and all these things, were felt to be, crazy. They were felt like they made them feel very, very shunned, and they silenced them in different ways of kicking out of cheder and shlichus. There were so many different parts throughout the next few years, things that happened that caused people to, stop talking about it. And what happens after you stop talking about something for a few years? It becomes something that, correct? It gets pushed, becomes pushed to the back burner, becomes taboo. And what's crazy is that in conversation with people that believe that we should be spreading this message of the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach, and Mashiach is in the world and all that stuff, they feel like we have to atone for the mistakes that people with a similar thinking did 30 years ago, right? Why hasn't it been a thing for 30 years? It must be that we came off too strong. It must have been that we were the ones that were pushing
You're
it down
saying
people's throats.
the only guys who would want to who have the ability, who actually want to spread the message, are themselves scared of spreading it because of other people, that they have this building up this whole situation in their head that they themselves are scared of spreading it. This phantom fear.
There's this. No. But what I'm trying to say is that the Tzad Shekeneged did such a good job that we ourselves are so uncomfortable with it.
Nobody actually needs to make a problem. We invented ourselves. We invent the problem ourselves. Nobody actually complain about.
Right.
You're talking too much about Mashiach.
But the thing is that it came from it started off as, yes, it was, people were complaining, and people were not only complaining, but it's at some points it became physical.
Yeah.
Right. At some point it became physical. But for so long it hasn't been like that anymore. Right now it's like quiet, shash still. No one's talking about it. Why is what like this? Why do I not, right, in a group, in a room full of shluchim, right? There's no balabatim, there's no one else, there's no one that still is in the process of being mekarev to Yiddishkeit or Chassidus. Why do I feel uncomfortable standing up and addressing the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Right? If I'm saying l'chaim,
you feel like you're making a statement, like you're trying to get someone. Like I'm not. I'm just saying the normal thing.
Correct. And not only that, why do I feel like if I say this, I'm going to come off as being, I'm coming here and I'm putting this ideology down your throat that I believe the Rebbe is Melech HaMoshiach, and you also have to believe the Rebbe is Mashiach.
Right.
No.
If I'm at a Farbrengen 770 and I'll start singing Yechi by the Farbrengen, that's like not a normal thing to do. Out of all of my years in yeshiva, I don't know if ever by a Farbrengen it's not like naturally, like just like when they used to be normal Nagunim for Yidaf Nissen, the people knew and cared about. People would sing every Farbrengen. You'd sing like the Nigun, if you'd sing like the Nigun from that year, like very normal thing to start. Or people who know this year's, I don't know it, but people who know it, if you know it, if you're in the yeshiva where everyone knows it, everyone sings it, very normal thing. Yechi should be the same thing. It's even in the, as far as I recall, I don't know if I mentioned the way when you sign it to go to All Torah Shadal, you got a side, you agreed, you sing Yechi by Farbrengen sometimes. So that's something we do in yeshiva over here. That's a normal thing. That's the whole point of everything. That the Rebbe is taking us out of goals. But yet, I don't know if you've ever tried it. Starting Yechi by Farbrengen, I have. It doesn't catch on so well.
No, and so
everyone feels it. It's like, oh, what are you singing Yechi for? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? Ooh.
I personally think that because there is this whole room, there's whole surrounding this Yechi, means that there is something to it. There is something to the singing of Yechi. If not, it would just be like another song, and who cares? If you sing it, sing along. Why not?
You would think it was as if like we invented this after Gimel Tammuz without the Rebbe's knowledge, and that's why it's so taboo. If you didn't know better. I mean, I don't want to speak ill of anyone, but just to illustrate, in Tafshin Ayin, the first time they made the big great parade. Great name, by the way. Shout out to my uncle for naming it. Anyways, yeah, you have the great parade was the first. It was I think that was the first great parade, and the real great parade is when we could see the Rebbe. But at any rate. And there was the first time they were doing these big events on Easter Parkway, kind of with live streams and stuff. And after the Psukim, they said Yechi. Now I don't know what the politics was. They were supposed to say it. They weren't supposed to say it. I don't care too much for the fighting and the politics, but it got. I'm sure you could you could find the clip online if you wanted to. It got very physical and it was very ugly, and it wasn't big Kiddush Hashem. And from then on, the Seder became that on 770 they realized Yechi is gonna be set on the Parkway. But the live stream they always cut. Whenever there's an event on the Parkway, they always cut the live stream. and put a picture of the Rebbe. So, to save face for the rest of
the world.
But it was like this crazy thing, the saying Yechi. Could you imagine? The Rebbe encouraged Yechi before Nun Beis. They can get into whether or not why he did. He did it for a week, and then he stopped. With Tazim and Saida, and then afterwards during the week, the video, or the Rebbe encouraged it. You could say, yeah, but he didn't want to. If you have a Rebbe who does things he doesn't want to do, and
I was just telling my students actually.
And then you have the whole Megillah.
And then you have the whole Megillah.
Yeah,
correct.
The Rebbe's encouraging like crazy. Whatever the shita was before, obviously, now we're full on. Now the Rebbe's biz galus. Now before whatever dargas you want to talk about, the only people will tell you of Mashiach being Mizgala and it becoming important. Everyone agrees that at some point Mashiach is going to be fully Mizgala and he's going to be the king. When there'll be a Beis Hamikdash and Kibbutz Galius, no one's going to be a Kuz Mashiach. I don't care. I'll find out what he
when we walk into the Beis Hamikdash.
Right. Nobody. At some point, he's the king, and that's important, right?
Correct.
That happens at some point. We've passed that point. It's important. He's here. He's the king. The Rebbe was literally there, encouraging. The king is on his balcony, and he's encouraging the people. Yeah, long live the king, 100%. The Rebbe's getting into it. And if you've never watched the videos because you're scared, get over yourself for 5 minutes. It's not whatever, It's I understand it's uncomfortable for some people, but it's important. You have to know what happened. You have to know this happened on the regular. This was the Seder, so literally nothing else matters. Nothing that happened before Nun Gimel matters. This alone is enough. Obviously, now it is important. Now, this is what Lubavitch does. It's not pushing anyone aside. And if it is, it's not a relevant factor for some reason, because the Rebbe is the only one who sets policy in Lubavitch, and he's sitting there every day, putting all of his energy and encouraging the Chassidim to sing Yechi with all their energy.
Right, and if he didn't want...
Of like, you just wanted to be with his Chassidim, they would just want him to have a refuah shalema and take them out of Gola. I mean, I can't even. You have people who make these tainas who about everything else about the Rebbe, the Rebbe, and yet given a whole year of that was pretty much all that was going on with the Rebbe, and they're like, nah. It's like,
write it off.
What? The Rebbe's the Merkava. The Rebbe. I don't have to explain this. This is the Rebbe. This is the policy. And then you come and you say Yechi, and everyone looks at you like you fell off the moon. I'm the normal one. This was normal. This was the regular thing.
Not only was normal, but is normal.
It is normal. A very big part is the way people think, like we were mentioning at the beginning, this, to quote, this group think, right? People... it's not only that they do whatever's normal, they think in whatever's normal. I can give an example for myself. I didn't grow up in 77, I grew up in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is, they're pretty parv. You want to see Yechi, it's no problem. You want to not see Yechi, it's no problem. By the rallies in Cheder, I believe they say Yechi. So I grew up, I had a Yechi yarmulka until I was bar mitzvah, at which point I put on this yarmulka. I said Yechi, I had, you're a kid, you don't know how much do you understand. You have basic, the Rebbe is Moshiach, of course, the Rebbe is alive, you don't really know what that means, but sure, why not? The Rebbe, of course, yeah, you know the Rebbe is alive, obviously. And whatever, certain things that I was used to, that's what I did. Singing after davening, after the psukkah, I was used to that. Then eventually I came to 770 and the Yechi b'Keish Torah. Apparently they've been doing that since Megillah, whatever, since I believe. But yet because I'm not used to it, I didn't grow up doing that, even though there's no reason it makes more sense that if I'm not then there, And it's not like something someone invented later. It was invented, whatever. At the same time, I started saying Yechi after davening.
Right.
Because I mean, I like answer in 770, but like if I'm by a shul if I'm home in LA, I'm not gonna say Yechi b'Kiddush Torah. Why not? Because in my head, when I grew up and what's my version of normal, it's not normal. It's very interesting, even though I'm all the way on board.
Right.
I have in my head my version of normal, and
Also, Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Before Tkiyas, that's also like, but it makes Rosh Hashanah before Tkiyas makes like way more sense than like the rest of the year.
There is merit, just to be fair for all the. It is a bit probably off to say Yechi in middle of davening. It's probably not much. If you want to say that,
Okay.
therefore it's different because this is middle of davening and this is after davening.
I'm saying
totally
before Tkiyas, by Tkiyas makes a
No, I'm
lot
saying
more
that
sense.
there is a difference between after davening and middle of davening.
Correct.
The concept
Correct.
of not messing with the nusach. And at this point, things diverge into totally behagish about it's first part of davening or
Yeah.
but that's already up to the individual person. My point is just because I wasn't used to it, not because I had these cheshbonos about davening or not davening, just because I wasn't used to it,
It's weird.
I don't say it. And that's really the thing you have to understand. People will do whatever's normal, and then they'll make sense of whatever the reason that is. Like I just did, and I explained away why I said why they do make sense. See?
There you go.
There you go. And
Right,
you'll be
so
convinced of it. It's for real, This is the way people work.
So what do you think? How do you think we get people out of it? What's the
So the first thing is you got to know the facts. You got to know the facts. You have to take yourself out of what you consider normal and think about something. Realize what the facts are.
right? I think before you get to the facts, I think it's also important to be open to the fact that everybody else might be wrong. It might be possible that your whole circle is wrong. Like for example, Eretz Yisrael, the whole college campuses thing. Before they're open to sitting in front of you and listening to what you have to say about the facts of the whole conflict, they have to be open to the fact that everybody that is around them, all the tents, all their friends, all their professors, they're all wrong. Because if they don't have
Right.
if they don't have that in their mind, facts today to tomorrow, you could say, but what do you mean? My professor's telling me this. My professor, it can't be that the facts you're telling me are correct because all my friends. How is it possible that the facts that you're telling me are correct and all these people are getting it wrong? So before you get to the facts, you have to first and foremost,
open that
you have to be open.
Everyone
Correct.
can be wrong,
but not again. And what we're trying to say is not that everybody is wrong, but it's possible.
But you have to be open to the possibility.
Correct, to the possibility. And then once you're open to that possibility, then it's like, okay, now tell me the facts. I'll look into it, and then I'll make a decision on myself.
I don't know if it's true in the Jewish world, but definitely in the non-Jewish world, truth isn't the currency anymore. I don't know if whatever it was, but truth is not like the Burim in the beginning. That the Shalom Aleichem was true. Amal, people really meant it. They were taka happy to see you. Truth was more in today's woke culture. Truth isn't even important. Truth is whatever I say it is. That's the current secularist in the Gai Cheval. That it's like I can be whatever I want to be because I said so. It's like there is no objective reality and objective truth. It just doesn't exist. You have to first accept that no, there's truth. The sikhs mean something. It's not whatever I want it to mean. There's the right way to do things. There is maybe different opinions about it, but there are some wrong ways to do things. There's Shivim Pan Malteda, but there is truth. Everything is not open to interpretation. That's the first thing you gotta understand. And then you have to realize that everyone is doing the same thing. A lot of people, like you're saying, you engage them in a discussion. Let's say they are interested. You talk to them, and they say, you've got a good point there. I haven't really looked at the Sikha before, or I haven't looked at it that way. Or you're right, this does seem to be a bit... Right, the Rebbe Taki encouraged the for a year. You think it'd be more accepted. But then he says, right away, the guy goes, hey, my all the big mashpiyim, my mashpiyah, my father, they were there. They know this. They don't care. You know? So whatever you're saying, are you smarter than Yael? You smarter than this guy? You smarter than that guy? And they're not screaming Yechi from the rooftops, so I don't have to answer you because they're smarter than both of us, and they don't say what you're saying. So you think you figured out Pshat l'chai Yisrael and Beis? You're telling me Pshat is I have to go care who Mashiach is, and everyone has to go greet the Rebbe as Mashiach, and we have a king, and that's important, that Mashiach's Bezgalus. I think it means do more Torah mitzvahs. That's what I'm brag about, learning more chassidus, kochim, mitzayim, skashus, the Rebbe. My Mishpim never talks about this. Kabbal's pay Mashiach Tzekenu. Yeah, whatever, Torah mitzvahs, bring Mashiach, like always, like all the sichos. That's the verbrengens. There's nothing, so you're telling me that the whole point of Judaism and the whole avodah of Ardar is something different than everything I've heard in my whole life in yeshiva. Obviously you got shot in the sichel wrong, because that can't be. So you got to tell yourself, I don't know, maybe it could be. Look at it with an open mind. And one of the weird places you see something similar to this by the Rebbe is Chav Chasnisim, where the Rebbe says, "Ain't fair or dry." We'll come up with the eights of what we should do and how we should do it. And then people say the Rebbe, like the said he was talking about, just myself and Torah mitzvahs. That's nothing new. The Rebbe can't tell us that myself and Torah mitzvahs. He's got to play this whole, excuse my language, game of like, figure out what to do. I don't know. I give up. I can't do it anymore. Let's see what you guys can figure out. Maybe you'll have 10 akshanim and 1, 2, or 3 people will figure out what to do. What are they figuring out? Do more Torah mitzvahs. That's what they should do. What do you mean? What's the kunz? What do people have to figure out what to do? 1, 2, or 3 people? It should be obvious to everyone. Like No, the Rebbe's saying could be everyone's going to miss the point. Everyone's not going to know what the Rebbe's talking about. And 1, 2, or 3 people will get it. And they'll figure out an idea of how to inspire everyone to care about Mashiach, which the Rebbe was talking about. You guys don't actually, you're still in the Galus Primi. You don't really care about Mashiach. So maybe come up with an idea of how everyone should start caring and start actually, that's what's necessary, to really care about Mashiach. That's how you'll bring the Gula. You'll figure out how to actually make it happen. 1, 2, or 3 people. So don't be scared. Think about it. And if you have a question, I'm not telling you to ignore your mashpiyim. Chas v'shalom. I'm telling you to ask them. Don't just assume. Go over to your mashpiyah. Ask him. Hey, I was talking to a bacher, and he, was talking to someone, and he told me something very interesting. He was telling me about the Sikh of the Rebbe. How do you understand that? And don't let him get away with the same answer you thought to yourself, that his mashpiyah. Talk about it. It has to not be taboo. We're scared to even ask someone because we sound crazy, or we sound like we're getting political, or we sound like too whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone just goes, "Oh, it's been rehashed already for 30 years. Talk about it again. Yeah, see if that helps. If it didn't help for 30 years, it's not going to help now." It's like, guys, this is all we have. The Rebbe left us instructions how to bring the Geula. He left us siches. He told us what to do. This is what we need to focus on. You have people right now on shluchas, and they don't have a clarkite in what exactly the shluchas is. No fault of their own. They have a general vision. We're bringing the Gula, we're going on shluchas, spreading Torah mitzvahs. But you ask them with the finer points of what exactly is Pshat, Chaysaron, and Beis, they don't have a clear answer. They don't really know. And why? Because it's taboo. Nobody's scared. And they'll say it's Himmlish. It's not so clear. It's not so clear. Then how you want shlichus? What are you doing? I mean, it's not clear. So what shlichus? Shlichus is whatever it's been before, whatever is in the ether, whatever everyone knows what shlichus is. A round of applause for the whole world. That's shlichus. We're spending Torah and mitzvahs and Yiddishkeit. But I don't know. You look at Chaysar, it's not so clear what shlichus is. The Rebbe was adding a whole new depth to shlichus. What was that depth that he was adding? He was clearly, he said a sikh about something. And if you're going to tell me it was yourself in Torah mitzvahs or something, that's not what it says. And if you're satisfied with that, you got another thing coming. Talk to your mashpia. Tell him, no. What does it say? Come on. Explain it. This is it's like the most important thing. What's going on over here? We need to make it normal. And when it becomes normal, people are willing to accept whatever it is. You saw it during COVID. Whatever was normal, the CDC could have changed their minds every 5 minutes. Whatever was the current guidance, the official public health ordinance, that's what most people, or a lot of people, followed. It could have changed on a dime. And they could have said that they lied about it, and now they understand differently, and now they know the science. Okay, well, now they know. It's good. Now I believe them, sure. Whatever is normal, whatever is the regular thing, and we're trained to do that because you got to trust. How else are you supposed to live your life? You can't be an expert on everything. That was the Rebbe's constant advice. Ask an expert. You do have to trust the experts to an extent. But at some point, we're here 30 years after Gimel Tammuz. Tapara de Plachu, if we're still in Golus over here, whatever we're doing, either we need to do more of it, or it needs to be boosted, or we got to change course. You got to evaluate. We can't just keep smooth sailing. It's all good. In 1,000 years ago, if Mashiach didn't come yet, it was very sad. And Ani Mamin in every second of Golus and Shchinta Begalusa. But you had no reason to suspect you were doing the wrong thing. The Rebbe gave us instructions that we don't have a clear clarkite on what exactly the instructions were. You should have reason to suspect. Every day that the Gula is not here, you should be reevaluating, am I doing the right thing? Is this what the Rebbe intended? Is this the shlichus? Do I have a conviction? Obviously, all you can do is, hey, you can have conviction, you can have Kabbalah Soil. That's what we got to live with. Well, obviously, we're people with seichel, with midas, and we're meant to do. There's a system of our own seichel and Kabbalah Soil to what we're supposed to do, and that's all we can go by. But you got to figure: are you doing all that you can to figure out what it is? You can't afford to be shy about this. This is the last final thing. Al this ba'ashin mepneim aligim. Leah ba'ashin lamed. You don't know? Ask. If there is anybody, I implore you, who doesn't know what Kabbalah Pnei Moshiach Tzidkeinu means. If you don't know what that sentence means, then how could you possibly be bringing the Gula? The Rebbe told us that's the only thing remaining. So you've got to know what that means. It can't be fuzzy. It's not good enough. And if you're okay with it being fuzzy, it's not because you have a shita about it. It's because you don't feel comfortable talking about it. Yeah.
Gotta talk about it. You gotta figure it out. I think that's yeah. I personally think Kabbalah Pnei Moshiach Tzidkeinu it should be a topic on everybody's forefront. It should be something that we're thinking about, speaking about, breathing about, acting about. Everything should be towards that thing. And the Rebbe says that what shlichus is, all the things that you're doing, and all of it has to be durch genommen mit der nekuda. Everything has to be permeated with this concept of Kabbalah Pnei Moshiach Tzidkeinu. And I think what that means, in the most simplest of explanations, is Mashiach has got to be in everything. Everything has got to be permeated with this concept of Mashiach. and not only this general, whoever this Messiah, Redeemer. No, but there's a person. There's a Melech HaMoshiach. It exists. Gotta be like Rebbe Akiva. Gotta go around, spread the news, spread the message.
Rabbi Akiva's story is pretty crazy. Just you're bringing it up, the story of Rabbi Akiva.
It's wild.
It's actually wild. We heard it since we were 2, but it's actually wild. You had this guy, total amaretz. He's 40, full on, and he becomes. He was away for 24 years from his house. And he becomes in the Kula Liba de Akiva. The whole Torah, what we have, the entire Torah Shal Pez from Rabbi Akiva. It boggles the mind. It's the dedication. That no, I am gonna do it. The whole rock story happened already after he decided he was gonna learn. He just was like, I can't do this. That was the whole condition. Now he married his wife. That he was gonna learn. That was the carrot in front of the stick. I'll marry you if you agree to this. And you can imagine what type of guy Rebbe Akiva was at the time. Whatever. Sure. And he's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do it, but I can't do it. You couldn't get it in. Then he sees the story with a rock dripping, and he learns a lesson from it, and he says, I'm gonna go do this. It wasn't like it was at one point he was like, I can't do this. And then he was like, yes, I can. And he went for it, and he was successful.
Beyond
his wildest dream. I heard a sikha about this that I was talking about the Akiva, and he says, before Rabbi Akiva did this, he was poor. And after he dedicated himself to Torah, and he was totally involved in Torah, he wasn't busy with money, nothing. He was entirely also in Torah. Then he became rich. Then every other endeavor that he had became successful because he was totally focused on Torah. That's the blessing of Torah. So maybe we can apply a similar thing here. You need to be totally invested. The Rebbe is telling us the shlichus now is to be totally focused. Like you said, everything has to be durchgenommen with the record wie das 40 about Pnei Mashiach Tzidkeinu. And when you do that, because that's the shlichus of our time, everything will be blessed. You'll have atzlacha in everything. People are concerned, they're worried that if they're going to focus too much on Mashiach, they're going to push people away. They're not going to be accepted, they're not going to be successful in their shlichus or anything else they're trying to do. If this is the shlichus of our time, then doing that is going to bring you the most success. The more you focus on it, the more you kochen it. In Beifin, the Teir came to thicken, but you'll be more successful in everything. Even though it might seem counterintuitive, just like focusing totally on Torah, Rebbe says, no, that makes everything else successful. He became rich afterwards. That's the key, because that was his job. That's the Torah. The Torah is the bracha. So let's do it. Don't be shameful. Don't be embarrassed. Kacham Mashiach. Ask about it. Talk about it. Learn about it. There's nothing else. This is where it's at. It's Mashiach. All roads point to Mashiach. So let's do it.
ועד כדי כך המדב גרהום der Am soll machli sein, Yechi המלך.